So as we were discussing, I have my deformer created now, right? But my eye is not following it, right? And so I'm able to warp my character's body in some kind of fun ways. But all that hierarchy stuff I did with the pegs didn't actually apply, right? And so what we're seeing, if you look at this is the peg. That is the thing that is going to control both the eye, the deformer, the body, right? It's the parent to all of those things, right? Which means, like, maybe that's not, the deformation is actually below that. So if I'm deforming this, obviously it's not affecting this over here because that's below the thing that is controlling it. So one might think that the answer is to just do this instead. And that's not a bad idea, except for what we start to get is deformation on that eye, right? And sometimes that's what you want, and sometimes it's not. And like you'll start to see that it's not maybe necessarily what I want here. Again, I always undo until the little keyframe dot that is down here disappears, just so I can get back to my bind pose. It's going to make rigging way easier. So I'm warping it just to see what the results are, but then I always undo it to get it back to where I need to be. So then what's our answer? If that's not going to do what we want it to do, then what will? So I'm going to go to our node library. So there's so many nodes in here that do so many cool things. Like I still don't know all of them. I'm still learning a lot of these, and I think people who have been animating in Harmony for years, there's still some of them that they're not as familiar with. So what I want is something that is going to take this deformation and the result of that deformation, it's going to apply that to the eye white. So let's look at this. Like, what I'm really getting out of this is a chain, right? I start my deformation here, I got another peg that goes to here, and then the end result, the output of that result, is this dot here, right? So this is the last dot in the hierarchy. I really want it to take all of that is adding up to the endpoint of that dot, and instead of deforming the eye, just take that displacement and apply it to the eye. So there's a tool that does that, and even if that didn't make sense, don't sweat it. Really what you just need to remember is a kind of hard to remember word. It's kinematic output. But if you just type kin, we get this right here, kinematic output. And kinematic is kind of like motion. It's the motion output, right? So I'm going to click that and drag it over here. And so I really just need this in between my deformation and my eye white. So I'm going to put this here, map my deformation into kinematic output, and then map my kinematic output into eye white. And you'll see the result that I get now is that if I move this, my eye kind of goes with it, right? And if I rotate it, it kind of goes with it as well, right? So I'm getting a kind of, it's like kind of following along, right? So I can turn maybe my top lid and my bottom lid. Let's move this back down so they're kind of like closer together. I'm going to turn those back on, right? And map out from that kinematic output into those as well. Top lid, bottom lid. And so now, as I'm deforming here, my eye's kind of following along with me, right? And if I do this, I can get something like this. So I'm digging that. I think that's looking really fun. Again, if I turn on my antenna, I'm not getting that right now, right? But if I mapped this out from my kinematic output into the top of those two antenna, then hopefully we're getting something that's working closer, right? Now I'm getting some weird deformations on my head. I'm going to continue to work on some of that. Some of that might be how far I actually have my curve stretched here and the rigging part. So, but this is working a little bit more functionally now the way I would want it to work. So as we were saying there, maybe just to see if this deformation would work a little bit better, I can still go back in here and make adjustments to this, right? And so, wait, I think, where are we at? I'm on the deformation. I actually have to be on the deformation to do it. Why is it not letting me? Curve, yeah. Oh, it is. I just wasn't clicking close enough. I'm just going to make this Bezier in the middle a little smaller. I make this one just a little smaller. I don't really want to mess anything up. It'll actually snap it back when I do that. Make this one a little smaller. I'm just curious if that's going to work a little bit better now. A little bit. A little less sort of wonkiness in the shapes. Yeah, so I think this is working a little bit better for me now. Okay. So here's the cool thing about that. I still have these pegs, right? So I can move my character. I can pose it however I want to, right? But I can actually still move my eye white as well. I can still do this as well on top of that, right? So this is getting a little confusing over here. Let me see if I can sort some of this out just a little bit more, just so we can kind of understand it. And I'm going to do that by moving the body up higher, and then we just have these other things over here. I forgot to put my character back in their default pose. I guess the easiest way to do that would be to delete this keyframe. There we go. So gonna kind of move my eye stuff over to here, move this stuff over to here. And I know this spaghetti just gets a little confusing sometimes, and that's one of the things I want to organize, is that this is all of my body stuff, my body deformer and the kinematic output. So if I click here, I can insert a backdrop, and I can always change the color to this and name it body. And it's kind of like a way of organizing it where I can see it a little bit better. But the other thing is now I can click this body backdrop and move all of those elements together. Okay. And so I'm going to do the same thing over here with this. Add a new backdrop, and we'll just call this eye. Backdrop. Click this button. Let's do blue for eye. Then you can leave notes for yourself if you need to. And then this is the antenna. Again, insert backdrop. Close. Okay. So I'm doing that because I'm going to do some kind of neat stuff with the eye here. I'm going to go ahead and hide really quickly the lids just to show you what we're going to do with the eye. So my biggest problem with the iris right now is that when I move it, it goes outside of the eye, right? And then that's never going to be believable, right? So I want to find a way of masking this so when my eye gets to the edge here, it actually starts to trim off this edge, right? And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the eye white shape as a mask on the iris. So I can pull out of the bottom of eye white, and instead of plugging into the transform right there, if I keep going over and plug in here, you'll see that there's a mask. Right? And when I do that now, when I move iris, it trims off and doesn't allow it to go outside that edge. Right? Now, you may be noticing an issue, and the issue is that the line art for the eye white is now like gone, right? It's like it's underneath the iris, right? Which is how it would work. The iris is actually above it in sort order, right? And it's sorting based off of where it goes into the composite node. So if something is closer to the left side of your screen, it's more on top, and if it's closer to the right side, it's more below, right? So, but that's not necessarily the issue. Like what the issue is I'm using this entire shape to trim off the iris, right? And I don't want to use the entire shape. I just want to use sort of the color of this, right? And so let's try to see if we can come up with another way of doing that. And we're going to do that by looking at some other nodes, right? So if I go, well, let's try this a little differently. If I go here and I type in color, right? Well, oh, it's OUR, the European color. You'll see we have color art, right? And so if I pull this out and map in eye white into color art, right? What this is going to do, let me just show you here. is if I put that into my composite node here all the way in the front, the white itself is going to be on top, right? It's showing just the white, and the white is actually on top of even the line art, right? And so if I unplug it, you'll see the white is even on top of the line art, right? And so I can separate out just the color art layer, just that white fill, and map that into something. So I could use that, right, as a mask, right, into my iris. But I think it's going to give me something kind of similar, right? It's closer, right, but not exactly right. And so the final thing I would look at there is if I delete color art. Yeah, if I delete color art, I can still use iWhite to mask this out, right? But I still want to see the color art on top of all of that. And so I could map my, I could just use line art instead of color art. So we got line art right there. And I can extract the line art from this, right, and pipe that to the front of this. And so now my line art, did that work? Oh, I'm sorry, I did the wrong line art. The line art of iWhite, not the line art. There we go. And so now the line art of the iWhite is on top of that, a little bit clearer now, right? Now this is getting really kind of confusing. Look how far all these are, and eventually this thing is going to be so long, and it's going to have so many things plugged into it, and we're not going to understand it. So really a composite node is just a way of mixing a bunch of other nodes into a single image. So I'm going to type in comp to get this composite node. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to mix the eye into its own composite node first before piping it into our main composite node, right? And I can click this yellow button here if I wanted to, and I could call this eye comp. There we go. Close it. And what I'm going to do is unplug these things from here, from down here, and start plugging them in here. And it's going to look like they disappear one at a time as I do that, right? But what I'm really doing is I'm kind of mixing these together over here. These need to be on top, right? To where all I really have to plug in to here is now a single channel into there, right? And it looks like I got the order wrong on this, so I need the line art of this to be all the way in the front, right? Now if I turn my bottom and top lids back on, you're seeing that happen. So apparently I don't need it all the way in the front. I need it to still be behind my two lids. There we go. That's looking better. So here's an interesting thing, is now we know I can use one part of an object to mask out another part of the object. So let's say I wanted these eyelids to only be visible when they were on top of the eye, right? So I can use iWhite now as a mask for top lid and a mask for bottom lid. And you'll see what we get now is if I move top lid all the way up out of here, it disappears. We don't see it anymore. Only place we see it is where it intersects our eye, right? And if I want to get even more, sorry, I'm going to grab my iris here. This is a pet peeve of mine. I want to zero that back out and put it back in its right spot. I'm going to delete this keyframe. Nope, right click, delete keyframe, F7 will also do it. Oh goodness. And so, so now I have this really neat lid system here, but the lids are always perfectly flat. And I mean, I guess I can rotate them to get like something like this, but I want to give it a little bit more appeal, a little bit more like dynamic shape, right? So I'm going to add a deformer to it. And I'm going to go to, with my top lid selected, I'm going to go to deformers, and I am going to open this back up, and I'm going to use another curve mode. I'm going to click here and drag. Actually, let's do this closer to the eyelid. Click here and drag. Release. click here and drag back, release. And so now I have this deformer on the top lid, and I have this mask on the top lid, which means that I can shape this however I want to. I can make this character skeptical. I can do kind of whatever I want to with it, right? And when I want to get this back to its default state, I can get it to here. Right? I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing with the bottom lid. Go ahead and add a deformer to it. Click, drag, click, drag. And now I have a pretty neat eye setup. Okay.